Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the Game Day Show. This is your source for college sport entertainment. This is episode 32. I'm Ethan Bass, your host again, and we got a very exciting episode of the Game Day Show this week. We got lots of college football to talk about. We have the Big 12 to talk about. We have Miami, Clemson. We have Georgia and our game picks. We have some big games this weekend, so I'm super excited to bring it to you. Let's get rolling, baby. Quick notice before we start is to go follow my socials, Bath Productions on Instagram. Sometimes we post the edits on there, like we did with the Miami Heat a couple weeks ago, and sometimes we post on YouTube like we do with the Miami Marlins. Just go follow my Bath Productions Instagram page if you want to follow. If any edits go on the Instagram or if they go on YouTube, it depends on each week, kind of. Now, I want to start off with the Big 12, sorry, because the Big 12 is not looking that pretty right now. And, you know, Texas lost last week against TCU. They got the fumble on the 1 or the 2, and they lost the game there. And then, as you can see on screen, Oklahoma lost to Iowa State. Now, So basically, the Big 12 is in very big trouble because who's going to make it to the playoff for them? I see two SEC teams going to the playoff because of that reason, or maybe even a Notre Dame in that situation. But the Big 12 is in big trouble. Their top two teams, normally the top two teams, Texas and Oklahoma, have both lost. Oklahoma lost 2 straight losses in a row. I believe that hasn't happened since like the 90s or something. But it's the first time that both of them lost. Texas lost 33-31 against TCU. TCU had a real good game. Matt Duncan, 231 yards. Watch out for him. I believe he's a rising quarterback for TCU. And maybe TCU can pull out in this division. And, you know, also Sam Ehlinger had an all right game. And he did have the 4 touchdowns, which was pretty good for Sam Ehlinger. But he did have that 1 interception, that costly fumble at the end of the game that lost Texas the game. Moving on to Oklahoma. Oklahoma lost to Iowa State. Now, that was a big bummer for Oklahoma because they didn't really show off to be a good game. And, you know, Iowa State did beat them by a touchdown, but Sam Rattler needs some help. He is not throwing good passes. Sometimes he throws good passes, but he's making stupid mistakes, causing them game. He does have a couple interceptions, 2 touchdowns, though. But on the other side, Brock Purdy had a fantastic game, 255 yards and a touchdown. What a game for Brock Purdy and the Iowa State Cyclones. Listen, this conference, and we could see TCU come on the rise, and, you know, Iowa State's 2-1, but watch out for Oklahoma State. The reason why I say Oklahoma State is that they're looking very good. Their quarterback is looking fantastic right now. Wallensworth or whatever his name is. He's looking fantastic. 3 touchdowns and 265 yards last game. I mean, that's a pretty good stat line for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I mean, they're looking really strong here, and I want to see them because I believe the Red River's coming up. I really want to see Oklahoma State Perel because they're kind of an underdog, and, you know, they are ranked number 17 in the country, but they are an underdog. Most people think Oklahoma and Texas are going to pull out of the Big 12, but Oklahoma State, TCU could be the front runners for this year. Oklahoma's not looking that pretty, and you know, the first game that we saw in Oklahoma, and they looked all right, and you know, Sam Rattler did have put up a real good stat line, but then they lost back to back, and now Oklahoma's taking that range, going 3-0, beating a terrible Kansas Jayhawk team, 47-7. Now, I want to see them play and who they play next week. I believe it's going to be a great matchup next week. So the Big 10 and the Big 12 has a lot of troubles. I do not see them making the playoff this year. A Big 12 team needs to step up. That could be TCU or Oklahoma State. But Oklahoma's not looking pretty, and Texas had 2 close calls, and they lost one of them last week and the week before. Now, next topic I want to talk about is this weekend's one of the biggest games of the weekend for this week is Miami Clemson. Now, Miami's coming off a really strong win against FSU, the rival, but FSU is kind of bad, and, you know, I mean, they're 0-2 in conference play. I mean, they have one of the worst offensive line in college football, so, I mean, they destroyed them. But Clemson's looking fantastic, Trevor Lawrence. So this is a real good matchup. They're both top 15 right now in the game. I believe Miami is like around 8, and then Clemson's number 1. So it should be a really good matchup. I see this one going to Clemson. We'll make predictions later why. But Miami, who has Miami played? Okay, they played an FCS team. They played Louisville, and now they played Florida State. Only one of them has 1 win. If you think about it, Louisville won that 1 game. So Miami's 3-0. and they beat teams combined with 1 win. Now, Miami's played terrible teams. This is the first big test. If Miami can win today, then I truly have respect for them. I do not have any respect for them until they play a good team, and they're going to face that on Saturday against the number 1 Clemson Tigers. Now, on the other side, Trevor Lawrence is looking really strong. They're looking really strong against Citadel last week, through 4 touchdown passes or whatever last week. And Derek King's looking strong for Miami, though. 2 touchdowns, 267 yards, in the Heisman favorite now, as long as Trevor Lawrence. So this is going to be a really even matchup here. I see this one being a little closer, like at the first half, just because I believe Miami's going to be all excited. They're going to get the turnover chain going if they get any turnovers on Trevor Lawrence. But this should be a pretty fun game, in my opinion. Now, Miami's ranked number 7, Clemson's number 1, so pretty sure Clemson has an 86% chance of winning. Spread's -14, so I do see Clemson winning this one, maybe by touchdown field goal or 2 touchdowns, like the ESPN spread say. It's gonna be pretty rainy there as well in Clemson, so we'll see this one. I have Clemson pulling away with this one, but Miami's looking really strong through these 3 games. But again, they have to play a real team, like we've been discussing throughout these whole podcasts. They have to play a real team, and they're playing a real team this weekend against Clemson. I'm super excited for that. I think Clemson's defense is just too much for Miami's front. Derek King's going to try his best. I believe that he's going to play good in the first half, but then he's going to decline in the second half. So I have Clemson pulling out this one. So next, I want to talk about Georgia. Now, Georgia is coming off a really, really strong win against Auburn. Auburn was ranked number 7. Georgia was ranked number 4. It was a really strong game for Georgia there. Their defense was absolutely insane. Georgia's defense, in my opinion, is one of the best in the country. I mean, Stetson Bennett for Georgia had a pretty good game, 240 yards and a touchdown, but it was really that defense that got Georgia and got Bo Nix off that field. And, Bo Nix didn't really have a good game. I mean, he went 21 for 40, 177 yards, and 1 interception. And, it was just Georgia defense. And, even Stetson Bennett, and, he had an all right game. But as you can see right now, look at this Georgia defense you're seeing on screen. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, that Auburn front, it was pretty good, but Bo Nix had a lot of struggles going on against Georgia defense, and that's why Georgia won now. Georgia's now ranked number 3 in the country, and they have a really big game this weekend as they play Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's coming off a pretty strong win, but Georgia has an 88.4% chance of winning, a 12.5 spread there. Georgia, Stetson Bennett needs to have a bigger game. And we know what this Georgia defense is capable of, and we know what this Tennessee Jarrett Garantano's quarterback is capable of. But we got to see more out of that offense, Georgia, because their defense is not going to prevail you through every game. But that was a really strong effort by Georgia's defense there. Tennessee, look out for Tennessee here. This could be a potential upset. As a Gator fan, I obviously want them to get upsetted. Tennessee had a really strong win last weekend as they beat Missouri 35-12. Really strong effort in the first half. Jarrett Garantano had 190 yards in the whole game or something. Their running back played really good for Tennessee. But I see this one going to Georgia. I see them winning by a field goal or whatever. But this is going to be a really good game. It's on CBS. It's the game of the week on CBS. It should be a pretty fun one down in Athens. All right, now moving on to our game picks. Our first pick is we're going to pick the Red River rivalry. 12 p.m. start. Super excited for this one. 2 Big 12 teams looking to get a step off their both losses last week. I have Oklahoma. I see Spencer Rattler pushing that Oklahoma offense, playing really good. But Texas, watch out for them. Sam Unger is playing really well. But we saw what he did last week. He didn't play as standard, and Texas lost last week. So I'm looking to see how these teams bounce back. I do have Oklahoma in this one. Florida, Texas A&M. Florida coming off a really strong appearance last weekend. Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, what a connection. Grimes there, and Tony, oh my Lord. I think that offensive line's holding up for Florida, and their defense does need a little help. Their secondary and the pass rush is not the best. Todd Grantham needs to cook something up, but for A&M, A&M's looking pretty good. It's typical A&M, and they're not the best, they're not the worst. In the middle of the pack of the SEC West. Florida does have a 76.6% chance of winning, and the spread's -7. for ESPN. I'm super excited for this one as a Gator fan. I believe the Gators will win this one by a couple touchdowns. I think that offense with Trask, Pitts, Grimes, Tony, Copeland, Shorter is going to prevail all of this A&M defense, even though A&M really does have really good linebackers there. I do have Florida winning in this one. Virginia Tech, North Carolina, another ranked matchup here. VTech has 52.3% chance of winning. I have North Carolina in this one. I think Sam Howell will look really good in a strong performance in the other. Both 2-0 in conference play. This is going to be a really good game. It's on 12 p.m. It's on ABC. I think this is a big game too. As long as Florida A&M, like these two are going to be really good switch-off games. The spread is minus 5.5 for North Carolina. I do have North Carolina in this one. Missouri, LSU. I have LSU winning this one, but barely. I think that Miles Brennan needs to play better in this one. And, he's coming off and, 17, and he does have 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the season, but he does need to play better. This LSU offense, and they have Derek Stanley on defense. I have LSU winning this one, but barely, maybe by a touchdown. This is going to be a really close game. Texas Tech, Iowa State. I have Iowa State in this one. They're coming off a really strong win against Oklahoma last week. Arkansas, Auburn. I have Auburn bouncing back because they lost against Georgia. But Felipe Franks is looking really strong for Arkansas coming off. Really good game. It's going to be close, but I have Auburn in that game too. Alabama, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's offense got their first win last week. Their offense is looking really strong. Matt Corral's putting up crazy numbers, but I think this Alabama defense and offense is way too much for them. I think the lines are so much better for Alabama there. But Matt Corral is playing really good for Ole Miss. Miami, Clemson. Now, I have Clemson as one. I think they're going to blow them out, and being completely honest. De'Aaron King, even though he has looked strong in his last 2 games, they have not played a real defense. This is the first big test. If they get the win, I'll start respecting them. If they don't, then they're obviously a fluke because they win against bad teams. But I have Clemson in this one. FSU, Notre Dame. I have Notre Dame in a blowout. FSU is not even close to good enough to compete with Notre Dame. FSU's line is absolutely terrible. I think they're one of the worst teams in the ACC this year. They're absolutely terrible. I have Notre Dame in this one. And the game of the week presented by your North Proud Eagles is Tennessee at Georgia. Now, this is going to be a really, really big game. I see Georgia winning this one. I do have Stetson Bennett playing really well this week for Georgia. I see Georgia's defense pounding Tennessee, but I do think Jared Garantano for Tennessee will have a good game. I just want to add Georgia. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of the podcast. I'm Ethan Bass. We'll see you all later.